I think a lot of men need to bulk. They need to go through this phase where they're eating at a calorie surplus, eating more food, going to the gym, pushing those weights, and building muscle. And a lot of guys think that building muscle is vanity. Like, oh, I don't really care about muscle. Girls don't really care about muscle, blah, 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 which is bullshit. And, I don't really need to do because it's like all vanity. I'm fine the way that I am. But I'll tell you from personal experience and what I've seen from others, like, I'm telling you, if you build muscle, if you just, especially in your younger years, if you just build your physique right now, you're going to thank yourself so much like later on. It's just like incredible the benefits you get. So first is like the hormonal difference. Like when you're not working out, when you're not in the gym, I think it just makes guys a lot more weaker, like mentally. Like there's definitely something to be said about people who go to the gym consistently versus those who don't. There's a level of discipline involved with it. There's a level of, because, you're going to the gym, you're doing hard work, and there's just so many benefits, like mentally, and then just the way that you feel, which is kind of like a short-term thing, but I always think it's nice. I think it's nice to, have that level of extra energy, have that level of extra testosterone, so that when you're going throughout life, you just have that extra level of assertiveness, that extra level of confidence going around. It's just incredible. And when I wasn't working out, that was definitely when I felt like the lowest about myself. It wasn't even like a self-image thing. I just like, or at least I didn't think it was, or I don't think it was. I just didn't have like that drive. I didn't have that energy. I didn't have that assertiveness. I felt like a weakling because I was a weakling. I was like a skinny little kid. But after I started working out and like gaining some muscle, I felt more confident in myself. I had more assertiveness. I felt more disciplined, and like all of these different things, felt good about myself genuinely. And, people will think to themselves, going to the gym isn't that important. It's important for a lot of different reasons, not only your health, not only your confidence. It's just so many different things. The way that people treat you, this is something I had a hard time, I guess, like believing, especially in the beginning. But once I started making some progress, it's like, dude, there really are levels to this. Like the more muscle that you gain, you notice the different ways that people treat you. Like when I was a lot younger and all I was doing was push-ups, and, I got those newbie gains. I was starting to gain some muscle. Some people would comment about it, and that'd feel really good. But then like closer to now, when I started building more muscle, I got a lot more like looks and compliments from girls, and, the respect that you get walking to a room from guys, and just like, it changes the way that people perceive you. It changes the way that it just changes the way that people perceive you socially. It's like, the clothes that you wear. Like if you go into like a job interview and you're wearing like some fucking, I don't know, like a gym outfit, right? Something you wear to the gym, or, just wearing anything like pajamas or something, they're going to think of you in a certain way, and they're probably not going to like take you seriously. Versus if you wear something professional, now they're going to take you more seriously. Like, oh, this guy's serious, he actually means business or whatever. It's kind of the same thing with your physique, but you carry it around like everywhere. Like when you have a certain level of muscle and physique, like people like think to themselves, even if it's just like subconsciously, oh yeah, this guy is probably more disciplined. This guy is probably more trustworthy. He's probably more assertive. He probably knows what he's doing. Versus if, some really out of shape, obese guy walked in, it's like, even if it's unfair, people are probably going to think like lower of him. Like, oh, this guy is probably not really disciplined because, look at his health, look at his body. He probably doesn't take himself seriously. It really does change the way that people perceive you. And I know that it may seem shallow. This is what I thought for a while. I'm like, oh, looks don't matter, whatever. I don't really need to care about that. But looks do matter. Like, the only people who say that is just people who don't look very good. And because of that, they kind of just want to cope and be like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. When you get to a certain level, when you keep not even at a certain level, when you keep rising and like gaining more muscle, gaining more attractiveness, whatever, you once you start to feel the benefits, you're like, dude, like looks really do matter. And it sucks because it sounds so shallow, but in a very practical way, not only from the way that people treat you, not only from like the benefits of health, not only from like the respect and more like women that you can get, the more like dating options you have. There's just like an incredible amount of benefits that if you just pass it up, if you just ignore it and say, oh, I don't care, there's like a whole different way of living that you're just missing out on because you don't want to, go on a boat, because you don't want to build muscle, because you think it's gay or something. It's like, dude, you're just missing out. Another thing I'd say is that when you start to get fit, you have a lot more energy. I don't think it's necessarily building muscle, but just like being in shape in general, you definitely have a lot more energy. I notice it with the people around me and like the difference in my energy levels. To be fair, it's probably like more of the cardio side that gives me more energy, but just still being fit in general and the amount of energy that you have, not having to rely on insane amounts of coffee, and will end up backfiring you like later on. Like you're able to increase your baseline of energy. You're able to feel a lot better day to day. You're able to be more productive. You're able to get more done. And it's something I didn't even notice until like I kind of compared myself to like some of my peers, and I realized like, holy crap, like I have so much energy than like more than 80% of the people I know. And it's just because I take care of my like health, just because I'm more active in fitness, just because I decided, okay, I'm going to take this stuff seriously. That's another thing. You separate yourself from your peers. A lot of guys don't realize this because it doesn't like feel real. Like, especially when you're in school, it's kind of like everybody. I mean, not everybody is the same, obviously, but you're kind of like all in the same space. And there's like some similarities in a certain way where you're all in the same school, and it doesn't really seem like there's too big of a gap. But as you grow older and as you like, keep growing up and everybody else is growing up, you really do start to notice the differences. Like you notice the difference between the person who did not care at all about their fitness and, just ate a whole bunch of junk food and blah, 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 versus the person who took their health seriously, started working out, started building more muscle. Like 10 years, 20 years, whatever, the difference is like absolutely huge. If you think the difference is big now, just like wait 10 years from now. It's absolutely insane. You do not want to be the person who slacked off. You do not want to be the person who decided, okay, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm just going to be out of shape and, things will just take care of itself. Who cares? You're going to have a lot of health problems. It's not a funny thing either because, people if they just would have taken more time to take care of their health, medical bills wouldn't be so high. They wouldn't have all these injuries that people think are just like, oh yeah, this is part of being an adult. Like, yeah, you're going to have back injuries and your back's going to hurt. And yeah, you're going to have like these, problems. You're probably going to have, I don't know, just like these random diseases. And, people think it's just like the normal part of life, but it's like, no, if you would have just taken care of yourself, taken care of your fitness, you wouldn't have to deal with all this BS. But anyways, it's also important that you start right now rather than waiting later. Some guys think to themselves, I'll start going to the gym and like taking it more seriously once I'm older, once I'm more established, once I have more free time and, things are just like structured differently. But the thing is, as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to build muscle because, you'll probably hear this many times, like your hormones and like your, sex drive and like all of that stuff. It's like really peaking in your teenage years, young adult life. And as you get older and older, it's just going to be harder to do. But the interesting thing and like the nice thing about this is that if you just build the muscle right now, it becomes so much easier to maintain. Like, I don't know if you've like seen videos like this, but it's like where this guy who built like a huge amount of muscle, he gets really sick or something and like he's out for a few months or something. And he's able to build back that same amount of muscle way quicker than like anybody else would be able to, just because he previously built that muscle like when he was younger. But if you were to try to do that while you're a lot older and you've never built that amount of muscle, it's going to be way harder for you. That's just like how our biology is. And like the scientific reason for this, at least to my knowledge, is like that the nucleus of like the muscle cells, they are still there. They've just like shrunken after atrophy. So like if you don't like work out for a while and you like start losing muscle, like you don't lose the muscle cells. They're just like become smaller. But once you start working out, like the cells are still there. You've just got to like activate it, I guess, until they grow back to their normal size. And again, the process is just way quicker. Don't procrastinate on this. Build it right now when it's going to be the easiest that it ever is going to be, so that you can enjoy the benefits of it later on. If I'm being honest, when I first really got into bulking and bodybuilding, building muscle, whatever, it was a lot of vanity involved. Like I was a really skinny kid. People would make fun of me just for like being a skinny guy, which is, I guess, natural. I deserved it. But now I don't think it's so much of a vanity thing as I just want to position myself to have the best possible quality of life that I can. And if I can do that by having an awesome looking body and getting, it sounds so like narcissistic and like vain to say, but it's like, it's true. Like if I can build, like a nice looking body, and I can live in this body for the rest of my life and like feel good about it. And, other people, the way that they perceive me is different, and like all of these different benefits. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm not going to just ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist. I'm not going to be that, grow up and be that fat old guy. And then, I have a wife and, she doesn't even, I don't know. I imagine it like being like some fat guy, and then like you have a wife and whatnot. And, you're trying to have sex and whatever, but she's like thinking about this like more muscular guy that she saw at work or, something. It's just like, you don't want to put yourself in that position. You want to put yourself in the best possible position for life. And I think it's best to start when you're younger, because for a lot of different things, whether it's finances, whether it's, your physique, whether it's your relationships, so many things will be much better and much easier in the future if you just start right now when you're younger. So definitely bulking is one of those things. If you're a skinny guy, or even if you're like a bigger, chubbier guy, get more into fitness, learn about how to build muscle, learn about how to bulk, and just do it. Get to a certain level, get to a level where you have a level of muscle that you're really proud of, and you're going to thank yourself so much.